podcasts are different. I guess that's fair. Yeah.
And we're cutting all of that, right?
Right. No, this isn't even part of the
This
thing.
is the promo.
This is what...
We suck a audience member's cock. A lucky audience member. Should I be looking at? I'm not gonna. I don't know.
Yeah, no, look here.
All right.
Oh, it's up here, right?
Not at my cock. How many times are we gonna say cock? I mean, this was
quite a bit.
This is
We
about
went over
50
our
times
allotted.
saying cock more than I expected in the first 3 minutes of this podcast.
Yeah, well, this isn't even started yet. I was just trying to. I've been
trying to
this
break
whole
the
time.
ice.
I've been trying to convey to you guys that usually I start out with just like regular conversation, just to like
And then slowly
establish.
you're like, what? We've started?
Welcome back to Articulate with Steve. Today, another very special episode. We have
Some would say the most special.
the most returning guests. Returning guests from an official Next in Line showcase area. We have Manny Brown and Tyler Wolf.
Yeah,
How are we
we're
doing,
inside
boys?
of the building where the magic happens right
Where
now.
the magic happens.
Thanks for having us.
I did listen to our previous episode before coming in here and had some questions prompted from that episode.
Okay.
So last
right.
time you guys said you wanted to start the show just so that you guys could hang out. Like that was the overarching theme. So how's the friendship going?
It's
Is it
totally
blossoming?
shifted. Now the only reason we do the show is to make money.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
We hate each other personally, but
Yeah.
professionally, it's going great.
Yeah.
So
It's just a business partnership
yeah.
at this point.
Well, all right. I know you guys are joking, but like, but seriously, like, I mean, bringing it, yeah, like you guys actually do have to do business together. Has that like been kind of a strain, or like has it been interesting to see that relationship work out as business partners?
I mean,
think-
we were business partners a year and a half ago. We just didn't have as good of a business. We were trying.
We hadn't even started the business, but
Yeah.
yeah. I think over the last year and a half, Manny is probably the most texted person in my phone, if I had to guess.
Oh,
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
probably-
well, that's cute.
Yeah.
Yeah, me
That's
and
adorable.
it goes between Tyler and my boyfriend, who's cock. Okay, I'm just kidding. This was related to earlier. I hope now you put the earlier stuff in.
Yes,
I hope you
that
don't.
makes no
I hope
sense.
you don't.
It's
No,
just
no,
like if
I
Manny
won't.
has a boyfriend, then he sucks his cock. But
Definitely don't put that
Yeah.
early stuff in.
that's just the promo. Anyway, we text a lot because running a business takes a lot of time and.
Especially when it's a small, independent, two-person business.
Yeah, but it's also like related to comedy. It's what we want to do. I mean, it is different running the business versus being a comic, but we're both comics, so, we might talk about comic stuff too, but
Yeah. And basically every business decision is geared towards the highest quality stage time. So it all kind of feeds itself in that sense, like as a comedian.
Yeah, highest quality stage time is in just your.
Just like the best show that we can put together results in better stage time. Like you've done open mics,
Right,
not exactly high quality in terms of what you're getting out of it as the performer.
right.
So we're trying to make this experience as good as it is for the audience, because then that just kind of leaks over to the comedian and what we're getting out of it as performers.
Yeah, definitely. So I actually have like just some questions like related to the show. So I mean, like, what issues did you start with, like, a year ago that, like what, that now you look at and you're like, wow, I can't even believe we did that. You know what I mean? Like, what issues with running the showcase was?
I mean, it's still like an ongoing, but it's just getting people in the door. At the beginning, we had just no idea what we were doing. So we were really just throwing anything that would work at the wall, like guerrilla marketing, like posting in Facebook groups, like, hey, just heard about this really cool show. Like,
Oh, you
anyone
guys
else
were
want to
botting
check
it
it
up?
out?
You were
Yeah,
being
sort
bots?
of. I mean, we were just posting
we
as
just did it from our
ourselves. Yeah.
profile, from our actual profiles. Like, hey, dude, we saw you
Yeah.
last week.
Yeah.
We know you're not just stumbling upon this thing. You've
Yeah.
been posting in here for
Yeah.
6 months.
Did somebody call you out?
I don't think people
No.
cared.
The only times
the
we would
other
get
bot
called
account
out.
called you out.
Yeah, no,
Almost
the
fell.
only times we would get called out was when we would post in a group. So they're neighborhood groups, and this show wasn't in their neighborhood, and we would just get like booted.
Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're like, hey, West Philly, want to see this hot show in your neighborhood? It's in like in Fishtown.
Yeah.
And they're like, they might, but honestly, a lot of them don't kick us out.
really?
I would say the vast majority, even if it's like a neighborhood where the show isn't, they don't care. And we would just say something broad like, hey, a show in Philly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Whatever.
Is some things we like worked on is night of the week. Obviously, Saturday was like always the goal, but I think we started out with some Thursday shows that didn't do that great.
Mm-hmm.
In a less than ideal location. I think at this point we've been in 6 or 7 different venues in Philly that has
Yeah.
hosted a Next in Line show.
Right.
And now we're down to 4 recurring ones.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah. What's the structure now? You guys have here on Saturdays.
So we're here, Lily's Ferry, every Saturday. 2 shows. We got an early show at 7 o'clock, and I can't stop selling it. And
Yeah,
at
you
9
know, you're like, what's up? We
Hey,
got an
guys,
early
anyway,
show.
so
Welcome.
no, but we've got a 7 o'clock and a 9 o'clock show every Saturday here at Lily's Ferry, Old City, 10 South Front Street.
I'm gonna put some air horn.
You know what I'm saying?
We're just gonna clip this as the ad, and then it's gonna do that spiral thing, and then it's gonna be Manny on stage
I
performing.
feel like any black man should be able to walk into sketches.
With just a loud laughter,
Oh,
like
man.
Yeah.
It's like a
Yeah.
sitcom laughter loop from Family Matters. And then we have, so this is a weekly endeavor here, but then we've got 3 monthly shows, and we've got a monthly show at Tattooed Moms on South Street. Second District, we've got a monthly show. We're there every second Thursday of the month. So that's
cool.
Second District Brewing in South Philly.
Yeah.
And then we've got, what am I missing? I said Tattooed Moms.
Second District and Frankie Bradley's.
Frankie Bradley's.
Oh, you
Frankie
guys still do
Bradley's.
Frankie Bradley.
Every
Yeah.
last Friday, we're at Frankie Bradley's in Center City in the neighborhood. And last show, we had a pretty decent turnout.
It was like 75.
Like 75 people were there.
Yeah.
Which, yeah, it's pretty good.
So that's what we have right now, which adds up to 11 shows a month. And then we're still looking to add more. So we're looking to add like a weekly open mic, but it's really an open mic for comics, but the audience won't know that. So we're going to get audience in there,
Oh, cool.
advertise it like a free show. And then we're looking to add more shows here as well. So
Right.
we're looking to eventually be like a full-fledged
We want, like,
operation.
Lily's Ferry, if you're listening, which they might, well, we're in here, they might be.
Yeah,
Right.
But-
they're just behind the curtain.
Yeah, like, yes. But
And
yeah.
our special guest, man.
Oh, bombarded.
Yeah, please. But yeah, we want this to be a more nights a week. So,
Okay.
you know, ideally, we would want this space to be like, Thursday, Friday, Saturday,
Thursday.
You know?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Definitely.
if we could. So we've been trying to not build too fast, too quickly. We've been trying to build like a good base. We want to make sure we can handle the 2 shows a week here before we kind of expand and things like that.
Have there been moments where you felt overwhelmed with?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ever since we went weekly here, which is we started in October, it's been like it's just nonstop because we took 1 week off, and I think it was New Year's Eve, or I guess 2 weeks in a row. It was Christmas Eve and then New Year's Eve on back-to-back weeks. But besides that, we've had 2 shows here every single night for
since October.
the beginning of October. So that's like 8 months ago.
Yeah. And how much sweat do you accrue in those moments?
Oh my gosh.
How much sweat?
Like when we're trying to get the show together?
Yeah.
So we've actually I think we have gotten pretty efficient at like, we can do it physically. We're like setting up the room, doing all that shit,
just don't want to.
preparing for our set. We're doing it all. We're doing the music. We've been checking, we've checked tickets at the door. We're just kind of generally taking the temperature of the room and then getting up, introducing the show, and then the 2 of us are still comics, so then we're like preparing for our sets in our heads.
Oh, yeah.
So we've been able to do that, but we don't want to.
At this point, it's second nature. It's like annoying, like just grunt work that we have to do. But it's pretty. We're not ever like freaking out, I'd say, unless like the speaker wasn't working.
By the way, the first show we ever did, which was Frankie Bradley's, was totally freaking out.
Oh,
Like
yeah,
I
yeah,
remember
yeah.
just like, and I remember we had Jamie Pappas, another good Philly comic, does a lot of Next in Line shows. Shout out to Jamie. She was our photographer back on that first show.
She was like, "Are you guys okay?"
He's like, "You guys, like, chill."
Yeah.
Because we were just like on one, because I was just so stressed out, because I hadn't run a comedy show.
You're like
I don't think I've
running through
ever
the
run a
chairs, like kicking
Yeah,
them apart.
basically.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah,
wait,
yeah.
how many can we count? How many have we sold? Like, all
And
this-
now looking at Frankie Bradley's, it's like the easiest setup because they have most of the stuff already set up.
Right.
Here we have to get the chairs out and count them and all that shit.
Yeah.
But at Frankie Bradley's, they have like lights and they have like a great wait staff and all that. Not that the wait staff's not good here. It's gotten a million times better than what it was in years prior. Like we
Right.
love the current wait staff, but. Yeah, it wasn't that hard, but at the time it was like, oh my God, like I just don't even know. But after doing it so many times, you just learn how to kind of run a room, check the temperature, make sure everything's, ready to go, the music, all that stuff.
Yeah.
But in the beginning, I remember, it was like pretty scary. But
Yeah, there's also a similar mindset to running a show. I think it's similar to like doing a lot of open mics, which is the more you do it, the less each one means, because you realize no one cares about what's happening except for you. So we thought like all the everyone that walked in was going to comment on the chairs and where's the food? How do we get this? How do we get that? What does this stamp mean?
Yeah.
And then we realized people were just like, yeah, we're just here to see a show. Like, why you guys
their
are
brains
scaring
are turned
me.
off. They're
Right.
just here to hang out with their friends, and they want to see something entertaining.
Right.
That's it.
So if they see sweaty people running around, it's gonna freak them out. a
Yes,
little
exactly.
bit.
Yeah, like,
But
what the
generally, if you're just
fuck?
like, things happen, and
You got to stay calm. You got to stay cool because you set the temperature. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you're, in a sense, when you start the show, if you're the one running around, you got to look cool. So you got to
Right.
make sure everybody else feels comfortable. You don't if you're on a plane, if a pilot's running around stressed the fuck
Yeah,
out, and
right.
sweating,
Yeah.
you're like, holy fuck, get me off this plane. Like I don't want to
I don't
do
trust
this.
what's about
Yeah,
to
you don't want to
happen.
see flight attendants like freaking out, like, oh my God, do we have enough seats or
Yeah.
whatever? Then
Yeah.
you're like, get me off this plane. Like,
yeah, I
so
feel that. So have you gone to like? This is another question I had. Have you gone to other shows where maybe things you wouldn't have noticed before, now you like start to notice and
Oh,
start
yeah.
to think about a lot
yeah.
more?
yeah,
I think I might bite my tongue on this one, but
No names, but drop names.
just I don't think many shows are run very well, and it's
Okay.
pretty simple how to run a good show.
Okay.
Just seats
Yeah.
close to a stage with a light and
Yeah.
working sound,
and yeah, working
and
sound.
and a private space.
Yeah.
So like right now in Lily's Ferry, there's a massive party happening downstairs that we didn't know was happening, and we've been to shows where there'd be an open mic downstairs trying to like
just in the middle of other people trying to enjoy their evening, then
Yeah.
it's like, hey, let's do an open mic in front of all these
it's like
people.
no, don't
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 bother
sneak
them.
attack someone with
Yeah.
comedy. Bring them in to see comedy.
Right. That's the key. It's very simple, and I was able to see it at other shows across like the country. Like Tyler and I have been to a bunch of different cities to do comedy, and we would go and learn from
It's
other
helped
cities
to get out of a
And
bubble.
we're like, oh, well, why is it so good in like San Francisco or Minneapolis or whatever? And then you realize it's very, very simple. Like Tyler said, an enclosed space where everyone in that room is just there for comedy.
Right.
Usually, I mean, we have some free showcases, but most of our shows are paid. So when someone pays money, they have more of an incentive to pay attention. They're
Right.
invested in it. If it's
Yeah.
free, it's like I can just kind of walk in and walk out. But if you pay even $10, psychologically, that means something different. Like you're
Right.
there for the show. You're invested. You want to have a good time. So enclosed space, people paying attention.
And even the free shows that we do have are not
Enclosed spaces.
they're not in a bar where other people are just like enjoying a meal and like, what the hell is happening over there?
Yeah.
It's in a separate back room that is, if you're walking into that room, you're going in to see a performance.
Right.
Everyone's looking at
Even
the
though it's
stage.
free.
No one
But
else is doing anything else in
If
the
you
room.
do that, then how are you supposed to make people uncomfortable?
Yeah,
Isn't
how are
that-
you supposed to make comedy
With
a
the
terrible
jokes.
experience?
Or with
Yeah.
the joke?
How are you supposed to make everyone feel weird?
Yeah.
Comics
Yeah.
and audience members?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. We've
Yeah,
tried
I
to
think
figure out
that's
how
what
do we
people
make
forget
it.
about is that the audiences are supposed to enjoy themselves.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
That's but it's simple, like, and not to like get on our high horse, but I mean I'm already on it, so I'm gonna stay on it for a little bit. But
That's fine.
it's kind of like you want to put yourself in the shoes of the audience member, not the shoes of a comic. Like,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
even in the shoes of a comic, you want a fucking good audience. But how do you get a good audience? You have to think, what would an audience member want?
Right.
You know what I mean? How would an audience member want to be marketed to?
Yeah.
And what do they want when they come to the show? It's literally that simple.
I don't know if we said it on the last time we did the pod, but basically it was like, we want to create a show that's something we would have gone to before we were comics.
Right.
And so like reminding ourselves of like, if you're giving them a good experience, they'll come back, they'll tell their friends, like it'll have it so it'll grow, good reviews online, like all that
Right.
sort of thing. And so like focus more on them than us, in the sense that like, again, going back to like how we used to be like freaking out, it's like they don't know all the behind the scenes bullshit.
Right.
They just walk into a room and they're like, okay, we're here for the show.
Yeah. So do you guys subscribe to, I was kind of prepping for this, asking around, do you guys subscribe to the idea that you literally just have to trick the audience into thinking it's a real show?
Yes. Yeah.
So how do you guys, is that those are all the details? Are there any like little tricks that you do just to make
These
people
are
think?
real shows.
Yeah,
Steve. You know what I
right.
mean? I don't know
Right.
what the fuck you think this. I just get up and leave.
Flips the table. Yeah. We just hear him off mic. Like,
Fuck Steve, fucking bullshit saying it's not a real show. I'll fucking kill him. You fucking blazer ass motherfucker. I don't know. You're wearing a blazer. That doesn't even make sense. But yeah,
Well, again,
100%.
just think about if you're a random person walking down the street and someone comes up to you and is trying to bark you in and says, "Hey, come see this comedy show," and they go, "Oh, like what's the experience?" Yeah, it's gonna be like okay, it's just comedians trying out new jokes. They're gonna go, "Okay, I'm not gonna come to that."
no
Right.
thanks.
But if you're like, "Oh yeah, all these people work the clubs," like if you've ever been to Helium Punchline. Now we can actually say and not be lying, like, "Oh yeah, we've had comics from Netflix and Hulu and Amazon
so you guys
and
were lying.
Comedy Central for the very first."
We were not lying
yeah.
for the first. Just let me step in for my lawyer. I'm gonna ask.
Right.
But no, we weren't lying because our first comic was actually on.
We were stretching the truth.
I mean, our
We
first the first
no.
headliner we had was a writer on a Netflix show.
Yeah.
So from the get go, we could say that
We could
people that
say
have been on the
he
show.
was a writer on the Netflix show. He had a couple of Comedy Central things,
Sets, yeah.
but so we actually that was the credits thing was actually always true. But we've had even more people now from Comedy Central and all that stuff. We've kind of actually changed our marketing though. That's part of like us evolving. So our marketing used to be, all right, we got to get like the biggest headliner we can get
Yeah.
from New York and someone who's been on Comedy Central or Netflix or a late night set or whatever. We're
Right.
going to tell people, hey, come to these shows because we got comics from Comedy Central. We got a headliner from who's written for Big Mouth or whatever.
Yeah.
And now what we've tried to do is really just sell the experience of, hey, this is a really good comedy show full of like the best up and coming comics that you might not know their names yet, but
Mhm.
one day you might. And so.
But I will say, to go back to the original question, in order to legitimize your show,
Mhm.
book legitimate comics.
Okay.
Right.
Or like it works like vice versa. If you're trying to legitimize it, book legitimate comics.
Yeah.
So like the first like slew of people we had, headliners, were like, again, the biggest people we could get. But there were sometimes people that were coming to specifically see the headliner because they're like, oh shit, that person's going to be in Philly.
Right.
I've seen their thing on TV or on YouTube or follow them from their clips. So
Mhm.
don't just book people you know. Every comic wants stage time. You have to remember that. So
Right.
if you reach out to someone who's like, you think there's no chance they say yes, the only thing they might say is no.
Right.
So it's like just ask someone and like have like a good offer, and then you can it kind of legitimizes the show if you are trying to get people in to be like, oh yeah, this comic has done the XYZ, or you've seen do
Yeah.
this.
Well,
or-
so how do you decide? How do you choose comics? Do you guys have a process at this point, or you just know you hear about somebody refers them to you? How do you guys like go
It's a
about
whole
choosing?
it's a whole
comics?
process now. So it used to be just like DMing people,
Right.
and some of the bigger names was just through like DMs,
Yeah.
and
and that's because we had 2 shows a month. It was like
Right,
easy
yeah,
to
yeah,
book
yeah.
2 shows a month.
yeah.
Just by being like, let's think, okay, now let's reach out.
Let's reach out to
Yeah.
this person. What did they say? Okay, well they can't do it. Let's reach out to this person. Now we do more of like showcase style shows,
Okay.
and we have several more shows a month. So we send out a booking form, like an availability form we post it on our Instagram page. We also have it on our website. And we also, I think at times we've emailed it to past performers.
Yeah.
And they fill out the form in like, let's say late April, and they'll fill out their availability for May. And then at
For
the
all of May.
for all of May.
Oh, wow.
And at the end of April, Tyler and I will kind of book, what we used to do and is like have like a meeting where like the last Sunday in April,
Yeah.
we would just book out the entire month. So we would be
Wow.
like, all right, so, May 6th, who's on the 7:30, who's on the 9:30. And we would just go through the form. We'd like have a spreadsheet
Yeah.
that we could create from all the responses on the Google Doc.
Right.
And then we would just like see who's available, and then just like he and I would talk about it and just book people that way. So it
Yeah.
would be like a 3-hour process.
Do they have that
Yeah, it's
template
been-
like online? How did you
No,
guys?
we
you
just
put it
fucking
together.
made
So it's
it
like
up.
a Google, yeah. I
It's
think
from
we
doing
learned
shows
it-
in other cities.
Yeah, we learned it.
Oh.
Where'd you learn it from?
DC does that a lot.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Like sends out forms that you fill out, and then you hear back from them.
Yeah.
But yeah, we try to. It's like annoying, necessary work.
Right.
So we try to like bang it out in just one long meeting. I think it's going anywhere from 3 to like 5 hours, but
Yeah.
it's because we're trying to book like 11 shows in a month.
Right.
So it's hard
Yeah,
to
it
just like
sounds
kind of
like-
day by day, and then it's also like, oh well, we're trying to do other things and live our lives, and to think in the back of our mind like, wait, did we finish this Saturday? It's easy to just be like, we did it all. But that's the other thing about growing and wanting to focus on the comedy is we're looking to like hire outside people to sort of
Yeah.
run the day to day so that we can take a step back now that we feel like it's a well-oiled machine
Right.
and focus on being just performers. So you won't see us sweaty and running around. We're
Right.
just going to be able to walk in, do our sets, and
Just be
enjoy that and
comics
focus on that.
and
Yeah.
get the money.
Well, not as much money
Not as
because
much
we'd be
because we
hiring
gotta
four
pay people to
Right,
whatever,
do the
right.
stuff we don't want to
Yeah.
do.
But it sounds like you guys have learned a lot from just going out and doing other shows. And
Yeah.
so is there like a network of like comedy shows that you feel are interconnected and like, talk a lot? Or is it just you guys going to shows that you're booked on and going up to the stage runner and,
I think it's just observing, really. I mean, you might talk more to them.
Yeah, I've asked a lot of questions when I like visit other cities. Like I know Boston, a number of shows. Like I just sat down with their producer. Chicago, San Francisco. Just going to these places, doing a show,
right.
and then talking to the person like, how did you do this or market that or buy equipment or all that
Yeah.
sort of stuff.
Yeah, yeah, and in the same sense, I wanted to ask like, how do you approach businesses with a show? Like, how do you approach like Lily's Ferry, or how do you approach like somebody's like, you sell them on a comedy show? You know what I mean? That's got to be a fun process.
Well, thankfully now we have like awards, articles, and like proof of concept to go to places. But at the beginning, it was literally just like, hey, are you interested in doing a comedy show? Like,
Yeah,
we've each run shows in the past, and here's what we think we need to make it work. Here's what we think we could bring in.
yeah.
And that's how we got
So
the
like
4
having
that
a
we currently
reputation
have.
helps a lot.
Actually, the 3 that we currently have, that's how we got.
Yeah, I mean,
And then we've had other places approach us.
yeah,
Oh,
interesting.
mostly the ones we have now, like we got them at the tail end of the pandemic, or maybe we're still in it. It was like
Oh,
in
okay.
the summer of 2021. So
Right.
a lot of people were like, yeah, great. How do we get people in these establishments?
Yeah.
So we're like, hey, we have an idea and we want to do this comedy show. And they don't really care too much about the specifics other than, is it going to bring me money?
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. They don't care
so-
about anything.
Yeah.
And then once it does, they're like, oh, how do we
yeah,
make it
keep
better?
coming back.
Yeah.
Oh,
Keep coming
cool.
back.
Yeah, come back. How do we
Come
make
back.
it better?
How do we make it better?
Yeah.
How do we maybe add more nights? You
Yeah.
know, so that's what we've been trying to do here, is like prove to them that we can really make this space a comedy space and
Yeah.
dedicate it to comedy. And just, there's new management here now, so they're really trying to figure out ways to promote all their space, all their stuff downstairs,
Right.
and their restaurant, their bar. And
Influencers.
we're trying to they're hiring influencers.
Yeah.
And so we're trying to do the same thing. Like because it helps both parties.
Mm.
The more people that come in, the more everybody wins. So
Right.
And then the better the show is, the bigger the comic that'll want to come do the show. The bigger
Right.
the comic, the better the show. The better the show, the more they'll support it as a venue. The more they'll support it, the better the show will be.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's all
Constant.
just
yeah, the more
feeds
the better
itself.
the show, the more people talk about it.
Also, the better the show, the better the comedians like that do the show get. Like
Yes.
I feel
Are
like
you
there's
saying
a
you're
ceiling
good? You're
to
getting
open
better?
mics.
You're
I
getting
literally
good?
have had people say, like, in the last
Yeah,
year and a
no,
half,
dude,
you've gotten way better. And I was like, that's because I
can't really see
25 shows a
I can't
month.
really see myself, but I will say
I don't think I've
Tyler's
gotten better, but other
for
people have told me
sure.
that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess I felt myself. I'm definitely more comfortable on this stage.
Okay.
Home
Home base.
My home base. I'm
Yeah.
more comfortable on this stage than almost any.
You know,
stage I
Manny's
can think of.
comfortable when he sits on the stool.
Oh my god! I think what a
Manny's
fucking
sitting, dude?
what
When
a
Manny sits
douchebag.
on the stool and leans back.
I mean, even as I'm doing, I'm like, what a douchebag. Like I'm
The
saying
first
that to
time
myself.
you did it, no, it wasn't the first time. The first time someone saw you
Oh,
do
was that
it,
Anna?
I don't know who it
Oh,
was,
okay.
but it was. We were standing over by the bar, and someone just leans over and goes, "Okay, Manny's sitting on the stool."
The first time I did it was at Fergie's, and I was like not comfortable at all. I'm never doing that again. And then I did it here, and I was like, oh, this feels kind of nice.
Yeah.
You
Next,
know?
you're gonna put out
But
like a
it-
cigarette and like light it up on stage.
yeah.
Like, all right,
Start slapping the
Yeah.
mic on his knee.
One
Well,
day.
But yeah, it started with a joke that required me to sit down, and then I
yeah.
just stayed down a little bit, and then I was like, oh, it's a different vibe, but it's like
Yeah.
such an
If you
intimate
want to see
space.
Manny sit on the stool, come to the Late Show because he
Yes.
always sits on the
Oh, the
stool
Late
on the Late Show.
Oh yeah,
He's just
Fucking-
you already have a set or two under your belt.
Oh, it feels
You're
good.
more
I am
comfortable.
smoking a
You're in the
cigarette.
zone.
See, that's your decompression moment. That's what. Yeah, that checks out.
When
Yeah.
I will say, like, after you do the first set, you get that out of the way, and then the second one, it can be a different vibe where you're just like, all right,
Yeah.
good, we're just having fun.
Yeah, that's why the more sets you do, the better you get because you're more
Oh,
comfortable.
100%.
So then
Yeah.
you can focus on just what you're saying, not just like who you are and what you like look like and how do I sound. Just
Right.
like
Just fucking
I've already
having
done 3
fun.
sets, so let me just like let it
Yeah.
out and be myself.
I will say one of the best sets I've ever had was after doing a full weekend at Helium. Like, so I did like 5 shows at Helium one weekend, and then I had a show at Punchline on like Tuesday or Wednesday, and it was the best Punchline show I've ever fucking had because
Really?
I usually have pretty mediocre to poor sets there,
Yeah.
but this was incredible, and I blame a lot of it on just fucking doing 5 sets in front of in 5 good crowds.
Right.
Because but the thing is, you lose it quickly, or at least I do. Like,
Yeah.
you have to keep doing sets. That's why I kind of am scared to stop doing as much stage time, because I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm getting better, and I don't want to have to like start
Revert.
over again. I fucking hate
Yeah,
that.
it's
Yeah.
this is a personal opinion, but I think comedy is very similar to working out
So, yeah,
in that
same.
when you stop doing it, you don't stay where you are.
No.
You lose your gains, and then
Yeah.
you have to work to get it back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've had like people ask me like, why do you do so many sets? And it's like, because I don't want to lose. Like, I don't want to have to work
Yeah.
to get back to this
It's a
point
constant
ever.
fear of losing where you are.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
really is. And I think the same way, except I think even with working out, you don't lose your gains as quickly as you do with comedy.
With comedy, yeah.
Like, you
Yeah.
really lose it fast.
Yeah, I one of
Um,
the questions I asked in the last one, it was kind of like just asking about how to get better at stand up, and I was pissed because when I asked people, they'd just be like, "Just do it more." I'd be like, "What?" Like that doesn't
that
help.
is
Like,
it.
but
Yeah.
like
It
now
is.
after doing it for since then, it's like it makes sense. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It
That's
definitely makes
sometimes
sense.
people like they retract when they have like a bad set or a bad week. And what I've realized is if you retract and then go home and like, okay, if I sit on this, I'll get better. Then all you're thinking about is the bad sets you just had.
Right.
If you just are out every night, every set, it doesn't like, you don't feel it in your gut as much because you're like, okay, that was a bad set, but I need to focus
got
on the
another
next
ones.
one. I have one tomorrow. I have one in an hour.
Right.
And that's like, I think is you get very stuck like in your head, and also you're just not, doing the work like working out. If you put the weights down, you're like, whoa, that workout was bad. I need to take a step back. Sometimes, for like mental health, it's good to do that. But
Right.
if you just had a bad set and then you take 2 weeks off, I just don't understand the logic that you're going to get better from that.
Right.
No, I think it's just something you make up in your head. Like, well, if I just sit down in my house
Alone.
somehow.
But then what happens inevitably is the first time you go on stage after those 2 weeks,
Yeah.
you're nervous as fuck because you haven't been
Right.
on a stage in front of people in 2 weeks.
Yeah, you're just rusty, or you're
Yeah.
just not in the rhythm. Like, being in the rhythm is everything. I'm telling you, like, that one weekend I had where I did 5 good shows in a row, I was
Yeah.
like,
In, like, 2 to 3
I
nights.
felt like
Yeah.
this, like,
Yeah.
I don't know, this inertia where I was like, oh shit, like, and then every set after that, I got like this huge boost in confidence on stage, because like
Yeah.
after I do a crowd of like 250 people and like I'm able to control that room, then if I'm doing like even this show, or like if I'm at Fergie's or something, I'm like, it just felt like the stakes were lower and I could just be more like fluid
Natural.
and
Right.
natural on stage.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think, Tyler and I are big believers in that simple concept that it's just like working out. It's like going to
Right.
the gym. It literally is. And if you don't do it, you never stay the same. You're either getting better or worse.
I've also, I trust the opinion of people that have quote unquote made it before. Like I've listened to a lot of podcasts. I read a lot of books from comics and like actors and stuff that I respect. Not one of them was ever like, take a year off. When you come back, you're going to be so much better at comedy.
Yeah.
No, not one of them said that. Every single one of them, like you said, gave the advice that you were given was get on stage, do it like a maniac, be obsessed.
Right.
And like if Bill Burr is telling you that, like, why would I, listen to someone at an open mic versus Bill Burr?
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it sucks because there is no, I think people want like
There's no like
a
moment.
secret, like,
Mhm.
well, what if I did it? It's just, there's no way, the way I look at it, there's no way around it. You have to kind of go through it.
Yeah.
And every set I'm doing, I'm like chipping away at something. It's like, well,
Right.
might as well just get up and do it, because that way, if I do this set, I'm one step closer to being better at comedy. Which is really, there is no end goal
Right.
for me. It's just to be better at comedy, which
Well, it's a craft. that
Yeah,
you're
it's just
Yeah,
a
talking
there
craft.
about.
can't
You
be.
just-
They're like, it's impossible to have an end goal too.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no like crowning moment. It's like, you are a comedian. I can stop now. I
Yeah.
made it. Like,
Yeah.
you just always keep going and trying to get better. And like, we have had jokes where you're like trying to needle it and figure out the angle or whatever, and then you just can't. So you put it away. Then you open an old notebook, or a friend says, hey, whatever happened to that joke? Or it just pops to you in the moment, and you're like, oh, now I can figure it out. And there's no like reasoning that you can understand besides you're just better you're more comfortable, you have more skills at your disposal, and it's just because you do it a shit ton.
Yeah, you're more confident. Even that, like you just gaining the confidence of being
Sometimes
on stage.
the joke, the words are the exact same, but because you're 4 years in instead of 2 years in, you just can deliver it in a way that the audience is like, I trust this person way more than that nervous little twerp. Yeah.
100%. Wow, we really fucking geeked out on comedy, which I fucking love.
Yeah.
So ask more questions.
I could talk about this forever.
No,
We just say, you know what, shows are canceled. Anyway, Steve, so.
Someone knocks up, they're like, is the show here? No, you can leave, actually.
You can get the fuck
Unless
out.
you want to watch a live podcast, which just turns into that.
Kind of dope.
Yeah. Write that down as a business
I mean,
idea.
what's interesting about that is like I've been taking and like studying like acting a little bit, and what they do is
you told me this.
Yeah, what they have to do is literally it's not studying the lines, it's studying your perspective from each line. And then once you kind of know your perspective, you kind of go up on stage, you be yourself, but you just come at it from that perspective.
Damn.
So it sounds like you guys got like the perspective of each joke kind of down where you're coming from.
Not even.
No, not.
But
Yeah.
Oh, not even close. Not even close.
No. I still think every joke I've ever written is dog shit, and
Oh,
I
really?
hate them, and I want to burn everything to the ground and be better.
Yeah,
but
no, for sure. But I think that's the goal, right?
Yes.
Like we're
Right.
trying to constantly do that. There's so many ways to tell a joke. You say the same fucking words, but how you come at it,
Right.
and the inflections, the fucking pauses, all of that shit matters, which is something I'm focusing on now. It's like, okay, because I remember there were jokes like I've been doing that joke. I know it works. Fuck it, I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah.
But then I might like go randomly back to it, and I can go at it from a different angle. Like, I don't know if you guys have experienced this, but you're telling the same joke, but you're fucking hitting completely different beats, and you're hitting different. They're laughing at different places because you're fucking leaning into shit differently. Your whole attitude about the way you're saying words it's completely different. It's like it feels like a completely different joke just by the way you approach it, and you're saying it's the same words, it's the same structure, but you're just coming at it from a different whole perspective, and it's funnier.
And it's one of those things where like we can describe that experience. There's no real way to teach someone that aside from them doing it and experiencing it themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm basing that on your face where you were like, what the fuck are you talking about, Manny? But I've had like when I was first starting, would ask a lot of questions of comics, and they used to give me these, it was almost advice, but it was more so just like, do it. You'll understand later once you've done it enough.
The cryptic messages.
Yeah, exactly. But then I like it. Whatever moment like happened, I was like, damn, they were right.
Yeah,
that is true.
I've heard stuff from comics who are much better than I am, who've been doing it a lot longer, where they would give advice, and I'm like, I literally don't understand what you're saying.
Right.
I'm not even. I understand the words that are coming out of your mouth, but I don't understand that because I haven't experienced it. But then, like, as I've gotten better, I'm still like nowhere near their level, but I'm like starting to kind of understand a little bit. Like, oh, I can kind of see because I've experienced a little piece of whatever they're talking about.
And
like,
when we're talking a little bit in abstract, I can think of two examples. One was right before I started, I like interviewed a bunch of people just to get their like thoughts and like advice on comedy. And this guy he's an executive producer in Los Angeles. He's like done a lot of TV shows, but he started with Nick Swardson as stand-ups in Minnesota, then was a touring act. Then I think started on Politically Incorrect, Bill Maher's show. And I was like, how do you like remember jokes? It seems impossible that, you watch someone do an hour set and they're just like, it feels so natural and just flows and you don't even notice when joke changes to joke. And he was like, it's just like you hang out like it's like a laundry line, just a clothesline. And every joke is its own little clip and index card. And in your mind, you can just be like, what joke do I want to do next? I know the joke by heart, so let me just pull this one off. Right. And now this set, they're kind of a little like, they're wavering, so let me do this joke and kind of win them back. And I was like, what does that even mean? And now it's like, 5 years later, I'm like, oh, there are moments where I'm like doing a joke and I'm like, what do I want to do next in the moment? So I'm telling a joke and then at the same time, I'm thinking about something else. And I can pull, the joke off the clothesline, do it, put it back, do another joke.
Well, that's
so
a lot
it's
to
not
do with like muscle memory.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other thing that I heard Jeff Foxworthy say in a documentary was he was talking about he was doing Carson and you had to be like very strict with your time on Carson and he got an applause break and he wasn't expecting that and he hadn't timed for it.
Was this on Kevin Hart's thing?
No, it was on, I can't remember, Inside Joke was maybe the name of the documentary.
Okay. I think I
watched it in college actually for a class, I think was the first time. But he was talking about he got an applause break and he's telling the jokes and he looks like he's in the moment, but in his brain he's like, fuck, I need to cut something because I'm about to go over time because they just gave me 15 seconds of clapping. Yeah, exactly. And
he was doing a woke joke back in 1985.
and he, in the moment, he was like, okay, well he's like, I have 3 jokes that I end with. The first one is the strongest. The second one is kind of just a transition to the third one, and it's not the best. So I'll cut the second one. I'll just go A to C. And that's happening in his brain. And there's been like moments where, you know, you have a certain amount of time or you want to get out of a joke, and in your brain you're thinking like, okay, what's the off ramp here? Like technically there's this last line, but can I go directly to it, or can I do a couple lines in between, or can I cut those lines? And you can't really fathom it until it's happened to you.
Yeah, well, in the same sense, there's this quote.
It's like an out-of-body experience a little bit.
Well,
this is getting pretty spiritual. Yeah. You're taking us to church with your fucking pastor suit on.
But there's this quote from Free Solo, which I like to apply to a lot of different things. It's about rock climbing, where you see this guy climb the Dawn Wall, and as somebody who doesn't climb, you're like, whoa, that's crazy. As a person who climbs, though, you're like, that's fucking insane.
Yeah.
What in the fuck? So it's like, from the beginning, you know, you watch a stand-up comedian that has like a Netflix special. You're like, oh, he's pretty funny. You know what I mean? And you start getting to like a level where you're like, what in the fuck is that man doing on stage right now? Like, that's crazy.
Yeah, that's very true.
So what I've noticed through just this recording even is like at the beginning of it, talking about like the business and stuff was very informational, but you guys came alive when we started talking about the nerding out of the comedy, you know?
You guys were so boring at the beginning.
No, it was really boring. I hated every moment of it.
I think that's a good example of why we are trying to move off some of the business stuff to other people. I mean, I don't mind doing the business stuff, but comedy is where we really fucking come alive, I think.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we want to be, ultimately, we started the business because we just want to be better stand-ups.
Right.
That's the whole.
And now that it's actually working, we want to go just wipe our hands clean of the business side, hire, you know, a full staff that can do all that. And so that we can literally just show up, do the comedy, and then rather than spending 2 hours, you know, breaking down or thinking about the next show or having to like put ads out, rather than doing that, you can sit down and think about the jokes you just did, rework them, try them on the stage the next time. Because there's so much just in between space when you're running the show where you're here and you're stuck here and you're thinking about all these other things outside of comedy. And I always feel like I'm on like the precipice of a breakthrough, whether it's with performing, writing, and it never has come. But I'm always like, it's fucking. So that's what I'm chasing, is like that one day I'll be like, I'm here, but it'll probably never come.
It'll probably.
You've been having breakthroughs, you know.
Yeah, it just doesn't feel like it.
You want the one big. What's the one big breakthrough? I just take over the podcast.
Yeah. Steve just slowly, we just turn the camera towards us. Hey, guys. No, just a moment where I feel like no matter where I am and when I'm going up, I'm like, I got this. Like, I'm going to kill.
Yeah.
And I don't know that ever comes, but I'm like hoping for that. And where it's like the material, I'm like, I believe in this because it comes from like a real point of view and people can relate to it. And it just, every joke I have is hack. I know it's not true, but it feels like it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. No, I mean, I'm not agreeing. Like, all your jokes are hack.
Your jokes fucking
Mine are
suck.
great, but yours fucking no. I feel like mine, I just feel like there's so much more I could do with everything I've ever written.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like,
just like everything's the surface level. Everything.
Right.
You just need to drill down and it'll get funnier. It'll get more relatable. It'll hit people on a deeper level.
Yeah.
Make them laugh harder.
It's so different from like starting out and being like, oh, I can't pull anything more out of this joke. Like I've ran this joke like 3 times. You know what I mean?
I've said it twice at an open mic.
Yeah, I've said it twice at an open mic and it's done.
I'm good to go. I have nothing else to do.
Yeah.
No, it's like jokes come back to you, like you said, like years. Like, I mean, when we started the podcast, I was thinking of an idea that I said a couple of times I said once to my wife. I was like, yo, you know how you're just talking shit in like the kitchen or whatever, and like I said it and made a joke, and she was laughing really hard, but she was like, yeah, that's really funny, but you can't say that in front of people. Like that's too controversial.
And then you're like, no,
this is like a kitchen conversation.
Yeah.
It was about slavery and like how. I don't know if you probably heard the joke because you've been, yeah. So like, God, I forgot my own fucking joke. Oh yeah, black people owning white people as slaves. and how black people would keep white people as slaves.
Forever.
Because how slavery would be dope if we were the slave owners. But
Yeah.
so I was like, but it felt super controversial at the time. Like you can't really say that on stage because I'm like advocating for bringing back slavery, but like
Yeah.
for black people owning white people.
Right.
And she was like, yeah, I laugh, but that's funny. That's like behind closed doors funny. Like you can't say that in front of
But
strangers.
those are normally the things you
And
should.
so I
try on
tried it a
stage.
couple times. It didn't really work. I remember one time I tried it at Fergie's
And you
and
get real red.
I started and this black girl in the front, I said something about like, I mean, but like slavery, you know, it was kind of dope or something like that.
I was there because it was the Fergie's new mic there or the
It
new
might have
material
been.
mic.
Was that like a long time
it was
ago?
a while ago.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and this girl up front was like, "What the fuck?" Like she just was like, "No." Like
But
she
now
was
it's
so
like you close on
she
it
was so
sometimes.
angry and like fuck this Uncle Tom ass. I don't know what the fuck this guy is doing, but fuck you.
Yeah.
And I remember that, and I was just I think I stopped telling it after that. I was like, "God damn, I just haven't figured it out." But then, like literally a year and a half later, or a little over a year later, I somehow brought it back up when I was talking to my wife, and she's like, "Did you ever whatever happened to that?" And I was like, and the way I said it to her was a little bit different, and I was also a
Oh.
better comic. So I was like, "Why can't I just say that on stage?"
Yeah.
And then I started saying it, and it started working on stage. But this was
Right.
like over a year after I had first had the idea.
Yeah.
And that's why it's sometimes useful to go back to like an old notebook is, you know, you're still the same person you were when you started comedy or wanted to try and were jotting down notes. And so sometimes it's like you just didn't know how to say it in a way that gets the audience on your side. And then you go back to it and you're like, damn, this idea I thought of in the first year was actually pretty good. I was just a bad comic.
Yeah.
And now I can bring it back and try to figure out a better angle to it.
Yeah.
Definitely. Do you feel as you progress, like, do you feel just like more? This is gonna sound like spiritual or dumb, but like, do you feel more whole, like with your comedy? Because before you were when you first started, you were afraid to tell your wife. You know what I mean? You
Yeah.
were like,
Yeah,
you know,
I didn't want to tell anyone. Well,
you're like,
I don't understand like people who are like, I'm gonna have all of my coworkers come to my first open mic or something. I think those
Yeah.
people, no offense, if anyone out there has done this, but
but you're a
that's,
dumbass.
that's fucking insane.
Yeah, you're
like what the
insane.
fuck? Like
Your first
haven't-
time is
you
like,
haven't proven anything. You've never done this. You'll be terrible.
Yeah.
I actually read this thing when I first started comedy telling you what not to do in the first couple of years of stand up. And that was one of them, which you probably wouldn't have had to tell me, but it reaffirmed that that's a stupid idea because it's like if these people come out, they're going to see you. You're going to be excited maybe that you just did it. You might get a couple of chuckles maybe if you're lucky. And you'll be like, oh, that was great because you did. You completed this fucking thing that's very hard to do, but you still objectively sucked. You know what I mean? So they're going to
Yeah.
see, oh, this guy's really not that guy or girl's not that good at comedy. So when you're inviting them to shit, they're like, I'm not coming to see you when you're actually decent.
and when you
Yeah.
invite them when you're super new, they're your friends. They're just gonna lie to you.
Right.
They're gonna be like, "Oh, I can't wait to see you on Netflix," and you're like,
Yeah,
"Oh my
yeah,
god,
yeah.
I'm so good."
fucking
Yeah.
funny.
And then you go to like an actual open mic or a show,
show
where you
and-
don't know people and you bomb your ass off, and you're
Yeah.
like, "Oh, I'm horrible."
And
at
then those
this."
people, I mean, not all of them, a lot of them quit, you know?
Yeah.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
huge turnover
Dude.
rate. Like a lot of people come out, they try it once and whatever happens and then they never do it again. So,
yeah. Well,
know.
one thing I do
I
want
love
to bring
that.
up
I think
is-
there should be less comedians.
you know,
That's why
Yeah.
every time, so like there's a new comedian at like 2 Street or something, and they're like, "Oh, we come back, we love you." I'll go up and be like, "We don't, you sucked, never
Yeah,
come
yeah.
back."
Yeah.
Someone told me to come back though after Fergie's.
Really?
I will say that.
Well, that's
and
good.
I would have come back, I think, anyway. But when that person told me that, I felt like I mean, this is
That's
really.
why you're still doing it.
That's
to
why I'm
this
still
day.
doing it. Person kept telling me to come back.
Yeah.
It was my mom, but she said, keep coming back. You should keep doing this. But no, people would tell me that, even though
Yeah.
I would have done it anyway.
Right.
But I will say there were like people in my life who kind of gave me that vote of confidence
Yeah.
where it was like, yeah, man, like that was funny. Like, come back.
Yeah.
And I think they genuinely meant it. But even if they didn't, I was like, I was already planning on it, but it was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you need those mini bumps of confidence from. Sometimes it's people you like look up to or respect, or it's just like random strangers, not your
Yeah.
friends. You need those
Right.
like little bumps that you can always go back to, like in the recesses of your brain, and be like, "Oh, that person one time said that. I shouldn't quit. I should
Yeah.
keep going."
Yeah.
Just that one person you think of. Do you have like an image of a person in your mind? Do you have like a savior?
I've had
Not a
s-
savior.
I've
but
definitely had
there's-
moments where people have said, you know, oh, you're funny. And I'm like, oh, shit, that person
Yes.
thinks I'm funny.
Yeah.
Right.
Then I'm going to keep doing it.
Yes. Yeah.
Um,
I've had that. Yes, I've had that exact same thing happen
Yeah.
where someone says just a compliment, and you realize the impact that someone can have when they're farther along or way above you. like in their class or their stage of comedy, and you're just like, fuck, like they think I'm good. Like that's insane because they're unbelievable.
Right.
Yeah.
And then it like keeps you going. Yeah.
Yeah.
Through all the
Yeah.
bombs.
But then also, I
Yeah.
had like last show, there was a guy who was just really connecting with everything I said and was like cracking the
Oh my
fuck
God, it
up
was
and like talked to
amazing.
me after the show. And like, he was a black dude, roughly my age. And I was just like, I would, especially when that shit happens, I'm like, oh shit. Like I don't know. It's like giving someone, this is going to sound so fucking cheesy, but giving someone this is so pretentious. The gift of comedy, the same way. I know it's awful. I want to kill myself.
I know what you're gonna say because it is true. That is the most.
But like giving someone the gift
meaningful.
of comedy the same way people gave you the gift of comedy, it's like,
Yeah.
oh, that's the best.
when they're
I
like
fucking love that.
speaking to your fucking soul.
Yeah.
And you're just
it's
like, I've never
oh,
felt so
shit,
seen before.
I made you laugh and feel seen or whatever the fuck it was. Whatever
Yeah.
that thing I get when I see my favorite comics do shit.
Right.
And I'm like, God, I love this art form. Like giving that to other people is insane. Like I
Yeah.
can't believe I get to do that. That's crazy.
Yeah, that I mean answers the initial question. It like literally does fill you up with
Yeah, so I guess the answer is yes. I
Yeah.
just did a long-winded
Yeah.
because I don't want to set up the
With
show,
meaning.
and I desperately just want to talk.
Well, yeah, well, it's hard to remember that meaning. You know, when you're bombing your ass off night after night, especially when you first start or before you, or if you have the ebbs and flows where you go down.
Yeah,
It's hard to remember that like this joke has worked and has affected somebody in a way that it was intended, and they felt it and I felt it.
That's why every
And-
comedian is insane and delusional to some level.
Yeah,
Because every comedian bombs, and yet in the back of their mind is still like, but I got this.
yeah,
No. I'm still. I got something in the future. This is gonna work out.
Yeah, no,
That's insane.
It takes a certain amount of delusion.
And I still think that about myself. I'm like, what in the past has like led me to think that this is gonna work out? But it's kind of a blind faith. And
Yeah, you just have to keep doing it.
Yeah,
Also, learning how to bomb too, like getting more comfortable bombing
Yeah.
is important. Like
Yeah.
being comfortable bombing is super, super important. Like not letting it rock you so much. And that only
not
comes
getting
with
the sweat drips.
Yeah, that only comes with doing it. Like that only comes like I can go to a mic and like, yeah, I'll have a bad set, and I'm not saying I feel great, but also just understanding like that's part of the process. It's happened so many times in the past, and I've been able to move past it. That after a while, you start to realize this is just part of the process. Like it never feels amazing,
Right.
but I think I've gotten. That's one thing I will say. I think I've gotten better at bombing, like at
Okay.
mics.
Or
I mean, I don't
better
like I don't like bombing completely at shows. I mean,
Yeah.
but that might happen too.
Right.
But usually I'm doing like my, if it's a show, I'm doing more tried and true stuff, or I'm at least sandwiching new shit in with better prepared shit. But at mics, it's like this is just a mic. Like I remember, like every mic, anytime I touched a microphone was like the biggest deal in the world.
Yeah.
like who was in the room,
Yeah.
who was looking,
Who laughed
like
at
oh
that?
shit, like Naeem just saw me bomb, like
Yeah.
or whoever, I don't know. Like, shout out Naeem,
Yeah.
funny as shit.
Well,
but,
he was what I wanted to talk about just real quick. He was one of the people that felt that flow where he had like 4 or 5 great sets,
Mhm.
and then he like went to a DC mic with like a huge crowd, and he was like drinking before. He's like, "Oh, this is gonna be the shit," and then he goes out and just bombed his ass off.
Yeah, that happens.
That's gotta hurt.
I saw a
That's gotta
comic who
hurt.
was killing it. I won't say who it is, but they were fucking killing it, like doing really well. Like, and then I saw them bomb. I didn't even think they could
Yeah.
bomb because I had seen them just doing so well.
Yeah.
And they were just like, yeah, I mean, it was my time. It was my time. Like, it had to
I was
come.
due.
I was due
on a hot
bomb.
streak.
Yeah,
Right.
like it had to happen. I was like, damn. I mean, they bombed hard. I was like, damn.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess it happens to everybody.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's.
Everybody
Why
bombs.
would you want to do? Why do you guys want to do this? This is what
I don't
Yeah.
know.
we do this to ourselves.
But it's like
It's-
the high is so good that like bombing is it's but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. No.
But it's also like you learn as you do it more. I remember this is another concept that people told me that I didn't understand. Like I think it was Bill Burr. He was like, as you do comedy more, you start to realize what percentage is you and what percentage is the audience in the room. Like
Yeah.
you have a better gauge of like you could do a joke that tends to work and it doesn't work in the room.
Right.
But it's based off of several factors. It might be based off the way you say it, but it's also based off of the way the room's set up. If people are paying attention, like
Right.
there's other things.
Who's in the room?
Who's
What's
in
the
room?
The joke
What's the
itself?
vibe? Who
Yeah.
are they? Comics? Are they? Or did the Eagles just loot? Like what?
Yeah.
What you have a much better analysis of why a joke isn't working versus like in the beginning, it's just like, I don't know, I said the same thing here and it should have worked.
Yeah,
Like,
reading the room.
I don't.
Yes,
it's
exactly.
like,
You've become better at analyzing. the
right.
room.
You analyze like why a joke didn't. You become much better at analyzing why a joke works or doesn't work. There's always going to be some mystery of sorts,
Yeah.
but you like get a more detailed analysis of why as opposed to just like, I just don't. At the beginning, it was like, I have no idea why this is working now and not working here, and like, was it and you should, when you're young, assume it's you.
Yeah.
Like, and I still try to err on the side of assuming it's me or taking responsibility. Like, there was something I could have done that was better, that, I could have adjusted to the room.
Right.
But yeah, in the beginning is you fucking no idea. Just assume it's your
I'm
fault.
fucking amped for these shows tonight, right?
I know. I can't wait. We bumped
so hard.
Well, to us, just crickets. Yeah. You never hear from us again.
So when we did the last one, you guys were talking about how you would you have jokes that you put in your pocket for when you're better comedians. So Tyler, I wanted to ask, have you revisited your shitting your pants joke as going through the stages of grief?
I've heard it a few times.
I've heard it a few times very sporadically, but it is something. I was actually thinking about it last week. I was like, I should bring that back.
Yeah.
It's not a joke that's like in my repertoire rotation now, but I've like pulled it out at certain times of just like, maybe this is the moment. I think it doesn't need to be exact to the stages of grief. Maybe explain it using that and then go like with a different like punchline or joke. But yeah, I've done it a couple times, but what was our last episode? A year and a half ago?
Yeah.
Yeah,
it was like the first time you did it.
I could probably count on my hands how many times I've said it on stage into a mic.
No, that big. It was the first time you did it, and I brought it up because I was the only
the
one
next day or
afterwards that I was
something.
like, dude, you should.
Yeah.
I loved that one.
I
did it once in San Francisco, and a woman yelled out, and she was like agreeing with everything I said. So I was like,
it's a good joke.
okay.
I've seen it.
Yeah.
It does well when he does it.
Well, and Manny, I wanted to ask, are you still on your soapbox that comedians should do poop and pee gross jokes,
think you should,
dirty jokes?
Yeah. I mean, I haven't really done. No, I have a shitting in my pants, or not my pants.
Like 2 days ago.
Like someone else shit in their pants.
Right.
And it's like, when is too old to shit in your pants? It's kind of, and it's based off this story about.
That's why it came back in my brain.
Oh,
Because
okay.
I watched you do this. And I was like,
yeah.
fuck, that joke still needs to.
Because it was funny. Some dude shit in his pants. And
Can't
I
get
don't
that
know. I haven't figured it out even close yet. It's a very loose story that I've told at Mike's.
Right.
But yeah, I still think if you can make it funny, go for it. I mean, I think there's a lot of hacky stuff. So with like sex and shit, there's a lot of hacky stuff. But that doesn't mean there's not good stuff if you're actually a good comedian who finds the actual funny in it.
Right.
So I'm not for like people like, oh, that's all low brow. Well, some of it's just more challenging because a lot of people do terrible jokes around it, but there is good stuff there.
Right.
Can you figure that out though? Can you find some unique angle on it? I think that's all I gotta say. But,
have either of you shat your pants in the last year and a half?
yeah, every day, man. I'm just out here shitting in my pants. That's all I do.
I'm caked up right now, dude.
Yeah.
I thought that's what we were here to do.
Yeah,
we're just both all
that's
three
how
gonna
we
shit
end
on
the
our pants.
podcast. Everybody's just like, all right.
All right, well, we
You
shat
see
in our
us all
pants.
strain.
But they do have a show tonight. This will not come out by then.
That would be insane.
Like just turn it around real quick.
We sell a couple tickets off of it.
Yeah. But Manny Brown, Tyler Wolf, Manny Brown, what's your
Right there.
Instagram?
That's me. That was not my idea, but
That was my idea.
Yeah, it was Tyler's idea. It's all good though. Manny.Brown. Manny.Brown, the number 1.
Okay, and this is Tyler Wolf. What's
That's
your Instagram?
me, yeah. At Tyler Wolf Comedy.
At
Pretty
Tyler
simple.
Wolf Comedy.
Yeah.
They have at next in line.
Yeah,
Is it
you go at Next in Line. We also have a new website. Go to that.
Holy
Yeah, website.
Have you seen our website?
Hiring
Check the
people.
website out.
We
Can't
got.
believe you
we
guys
gotta-
let me record with you. Why you still talk to me?
Yeah.
I
This
don't
is
know,
crazy.
man.
I don't know. We like to stay humble.
all right.
As we
fair
sit in
Yeah.
an attic on a 80-year-old rug that people have died on. I don't know. I have
Don't
no
look
idea.
at the rug. All right, yeah. Well, I appreciate you guys doing this right before the show. I know it's hectic
Yeah.
and whatnot, but thanks again, and it was good having you on. Now
Thanks for
let's
having us.
Bump these mics and try to break. It's like we get into an hour.
I mean, I was hoping.
hoping
I had some things at work, so I was hoping some of them made the cut.
the cut.
Yeah.
I was
Maybe
thinking-
at the end, like, hey, this is the uncut series.
Oh, the uncut.
Uncut
The
clips.
circumcised clips.
Oh my God.
Are we still on dicks?
Uncircumcised.
We are so obsessed with dicks
What
right
is
now.